Here's how I cheesed the Sol Heredit fight as a complete noob. So the most important thing here was a Ring of Suffering for recoil damage. I had about 500 charges. I used a T-bow, Avas, Armadillo with barrows, because accuracy doesn't matter. Make sure you have a shark, a brew, so you can eat the shark, brew, and Carambuan. Get the sunlight braces, so it doubles your healing, and then your health goes up to 130. And then make sure you have your super restores so that you can maintain your ranged. Use an anti-venom if you've got bees, and then keep thralls. As far as relics go, just make sure you've completed the Doom, get your Avernic Treads. Also make sure that you've got all your combat masteries. And make sure you've got Spiky Aura, because we're going to reflect damage for a lot of this. Now, I started off with going with Blasphemy. Just make sure you eat your Sarabrew to boost your health. Eat your Super Restore after that to get your stats back up to normal after you've eaten the Sarabrew. I put on Prey Ranged, summoned a Thrall, Prey Mage, put on Rigor as well to boost my damage stats. Everything else just got cleaned up really easily. For the next wave, I went with Re-entry. I figured Javelins, you know, the pull, if it's only temporary, it doesn't matter too much. Now, on the next waves, once again, I just kind of tanked everything. Just focus on eating a lot. You just go like Shark, Brew, Carambuan whenever you start dipping low in health. Just try to maintain it always pretty close to 100. So Shark, Brew, Carambuan, use Banker's Note to just constantly refill that. As far as the actual selections I make, I just read a guide that told me, you know, what not to pick. I definitely would say don't put certain stats above too high. Like, you definitely don't want volatility because you're going to be safe spotting and everything explodes. Blasphemy, you can have up to like level 2 or 3. It doesn't really matter because you're always going to just have a bottomless brew anyway. There's going to be certain ones that you'll read them and you'll think, oh yeah, that's going to do way too much damage. Like if you keep increasing your damage, or like, you know, the manticores or whatever they're called, whenever they get the extra orb shot, that can really mess you up. Now, I probably took about 10-20 attempts in total to do this, but as soon as I tried this strategy with all of the recoil damage and the Ring of Suffering, I actually managed to get all of the waves up to the peak after like my second attempt or third attempt, so it became a lot easier as soon as I set myself up with this recoil damage and summoned in the Thrall. So once again, you just gotta end your wave, drink your brew, drink your restore, make sure you refresh your Thrall, drink an anti-venom, just in case you select clouds or bees, kill off the Malia. You know, I don't do a huge amount of prayer flicking, or I should say prayer changes throughout this whole fight. I pretty much just camp the magic, pray, and then change it occasionally when I feel like it. It's just, you know, if there's something left at the very end and I know what attack style it is, I'll just do a swap. In this instance, I went with bees. Now the bees only have 1 health. You gotta be careful because they can push you out from behind the pillars, and they will do a lot of damage as well as poison you, so just make sure you've got your anti-venom with you when you're selecting bees. But I thought bees were pretty easy to clean up. Now, my basic strategy here is just run behind the pillar just so that I'm getting attacked by less people at once. That means I don't have to eat food as often, but I'm still eating a lot more than what someone would do on a standard run when they're trying to safe spot lots of things. Now you can get really fancy with the manticores and do like a, you know, three prayer flick change so that you take no damage. I think it shoots like ranged magic melee or whatever the orb color is. I generally just wait behind the pillars until the next set of enemies actually spawn in. And then once those next set of enemies have spawned in and I've actually killed them, that's when I'll jump out and just out-eat and out-DPS the enemy. On the later waves, when the Minotaur spawns, you've got to remember that the Minotaur will heal other enemies. So just make sure if the Minotaur's up, you focus all of your damage onto that, and just remember to click on those bee swarms if they ever start moving towards you. But yeah, with the Thrall up, with the T-bow, with all the relics, you should melt most things. Here, I think I just went with, what'd I go with? Bees again, because yeah, I don't mind having the waves, and I definitely didn't want to like have more negative impacts on my prayer. Once again, I'm just sort of waiting behind the pillar for all the Fremniks to run in. Sort of popped out by accident. you know, they melt. T-bow just hits like an absolute truck. Manticore again, I'm just kind of safe spotting the other enemies behind the pillar, getting the bees. Not much really else to say on that wave. Eat up my food, eat up my super restore. Get ready for the next sort of enemies to spawn in, or get ready to fight the next wave. So yeah, there they go. They spawned in behind me. Focus down the meleeer because he does the most damage. I was already praying magic. Once again, just standing behind the pillars, safe spotting those other enemies, making sure I kill the bees if they're headed towards me, because otherwise those bees will do a lot of damage and knock me out from behind my safe spot, which I definitely didn't want to happen. Then I just, you know, was already praying magic, so I attacked the ranger, just continuing to obviously eat whenever necessary, dodging the pulls whenever necessary, and just generally following, you know, pretty straightforward waves. In this case I picked the solar flare just because, you know, it's just a little dot that swings around the pillars. It's really easy to avoid. Focus down whoever was attacking me with the most damage first, which in this case was the ranger, so I was already parrying magic. Kill all of the Fremenics because, you know, they just messed me up. I was experimenting with the Thunder Kopesh specs, but, you know, you won't have the unlimited specs until you've actually completed the challenge, because that's when you get the specialist relic. So, you know, once again, just trying to safe spot the high hitting enemies, keep them out of my range, and just keep out eating. So Shark Brew, Karambuan, quickly unnote some more Karambuans. You know, super restore whenever I'm actually attacking something, just to make sure that my range is up. This instance I run over to the other side just to safe spot the meleeer, took down the ranger, kept praying magic, so I'm not really good enough at the game to do all these press switches and safe spot every single enemy, or do, you know, jumping out for a single tick and then jumping back so that an enemy, like, I can attack them and then safe spot them. Like, it's just too much complexity. I just kept it simple. Summon thralls. Whenever they disappear, they just help with DPS a little bit more. You know, even there I just get hit by the flare, doesn't really do much damage. If I'm taking much damage or too much damage, here I can safe spot the meleeer. I don't even know why I ran over to the other side of the pillar, but I guess I did. And yeah, you'll pretty much just do that. Here I'm safe spotting, so I didn't worry about eating all my food. Quickly food, brew, restore, get all my stats back up. Refresh my thrall again, just make sure it stays up for full time. Here I went with bees again, just because they're really easy to just sort of shoot. You know, 2-tick T-bow is very quick. You can just click on the bee swarm and they pretty much instantly disappear. Once again, stand behind a pillar, try to safe spot the harder hitting enemies, clean up the rest of the mobs, and then, you know, I sort of moved out of the way of that flare. I saw a bee swarm coming closer, so I just attack it. Once again, take out the ranger. I probably could have taken out the manticore there instead, because, you know, it's probably doing more damage to me than the major, as I was already praying magic, but, you know, with the T-bow it just really doesn't matter. Just make sure you're keeping your health full, keeping those brews. Once again, I know here that a minotaur is about to spawn. There he is. So in this instance I actually swapped over to melee prey, just because minotaur can hit like a truck. Swap back over to magic prey, poke out, you know, deal with the enemy again, the manticores. Once again, pretty straightforward fight. Here I got lucky, I didn't really take much damage, so he went down really quickly. Once again, top up my food, top up my brew, take a super restore, summon a thrall. It's pretty straightforward. I went with solar flare again, just because it's pretty easy. So, you know, you just don't stand within one tile of the pillar, you just stand 2 tiles away, or if it moves underneath you, you change position. It can make some things a little bit harder to safe spot, but, you know, ultimately it doesn't do a huge amount of damage, and it's nothing that you can't just out-eat. Once again there, I dipped really low in my health, so Shark Brew, Karambuan, attack the bees before they get too dangerous. I'm avoiding the spot from that javelin shot before. attacking the Major just because he's within range and the other enemies are safe spotted. And I know that a Minotaur is going to spawn in soon, so I just stay behind the pillar, attack the Minotaur, because if you're on one of those waves and you know that a Minotaur is going to appear, he's going to appear somewhere that, you know, will be able to attack you most likely and won't already be safe spotted. So then you can just pop out and take out the rest of the people. You know, once again, make sure to keep topping up on your super restores, because all of the sour brews that you're eating are going to keep reducing your range to level, and that's going to affect your ability to shoot, because if it gets too low you can't actually use the T-bow anymore. Once again, another wave, top up my food, top up my sharks, top up my super restores after I've done the brew, drink another anti-venom because I've got bees on the field now, so I just want to make sure I've always got anti-poison running. Here I just didn't really know what to go with, so I just went with Blasphemy again, because, you know, it's one of those things where it's going to impact your prayer level, but it's not big enough that you can't really out-eat it, and you're always going to be topping up on those super restores and eating your sharks and brews. It can be a little challenging in the start because, you know, you're getting attacked by so many things and taking so much damage, but once again, you just stand behind a pillar, attack some swarms, take down the enemies who are doing the most damage to you, and then you can just kind of chill out. So just keep eating, keep up those brews, keep up your prayer. Your prayer will go down really quickly when you take a lot of damage, but, you know, the whole idea of Spiky Aura and Ring of Suffering is that whenever you are taking damage, you're putting damage back on enemies, so it just makes it a shitload easier to do the entire fight, because you're just doing that much more DPS. Here I was able to safe spot the Minotaur, which was good, although suddenly I was taking range damage. You can tell by my movement, I'm very bad at the game, but, you know, if I can do it, you can do it, right? So that's why I'm making this video. Now, Manticore's dead, take out a ranger, you know, I don't even bother to switch prayers here, I just know that I can always out-eat one enemy, so if you can out-eat one enemy, then you're pretty much good to go. So the more damage he's doing to you, the more damage you're actually going to do to the boss, because of those rings of recoil that you charge your ring with, your Ring of Suffering. Once again, just top up anti-venoms, poisons, food, summon a thrall. Go back in here. I figured, I don't even remember what I just picked then, I didn't quite see it, but what do you do? It's a pretty basic video. So here I just once again sort of stood behind the pillars, took out the Framinix because they were doing a lot of damage to me. You know, the range is just hitting me, but I'm always able to out-eat it. So deal with those melees, attack the swarm before it attacks me, dodge the sand pools, attack the swarms again, and attack another swarm. That way I don't get knocked out from my safe spot behind the pillar from the Manticore and the other ranger. So, you know, although you can out-eat, I did try a run where, or a few runs, where I didn't do any eating or any dodging, and it just got a little bit too much, even with all the face tanking. So what I do recommend is try to safe spot at least a few enemies, so that you can out-eat whatever you are taking damage from, but at least you're not taking damage from every single enemy in the arena at once and getting absolutely obliterated. Once again on this wave here, I just kind of chilled out behind the pillar because I knew that at some point a Minotaur was going to spawn. Went to attack the bees. Once again, just clean up the bees, clean up the major. Put some more damage on the Manticore, just while, you know, the Minotaur hadn't spawned yet. I don't think there was a Minotaur in this wave. No, there wasn't. Okay. Once again, my usual pattern between raids, or between waves, I should say. Summon the Thrall, eat the Shark, eat the Sarabrew, eat the Super Restore, Solar Flare, went with Solar Flare. Red Flag's free, so doesn't really change much about the fight mechanics, so always pick Red Flag if it pops up. It's pretty much just like a free free token thing, free. Now this wave got a little bit spicy. I was taking a lot of damage, you know, got a bit full on. I was eating, doing brews, drinking super restores, and then, you know, it just got a little bit too overwhelming, so I procced to last stand. Did my best to, in that 10-second window with immunity, I don't even know if you need to eat during that. I think you just go back to full health, but, you know, I just took that opportunity to clean out enemies that were doing a lot of damage to me. Now I'm safe spotting both the manticores, put on prey melee because I was playing a little bit safer suddenly because I didn't have last stand. Take out the Minotaur, you know, top back up all my health because now I'm in a safe spot, so change my prayers back, top back up my brews, take out a swarm, because yeah, see that poison damage they do, that's why you want those anti-venoms, and then just pop out and attack whatever enemies are still alive. And yeah, you get the idea, so just once again, making sure I'm back at full health, just kind of chilling for a minute. You know, just take it slow, take it easy. You know, here you can pretty much just face tank these guys. If it ever gets too spicy, you can pop behind the pillar again, they won't be able to attack you. But just out DPS them, and then whenever you take damage, just make sure to heal up, just keep your health really high, and then no matter how much they stack you for damage, you'll be fine. Now here, because I procced last stand, I just waited it out. So here I went with Relentless, because I hadn't selected it already. It's only 1 extra damage, it didn't really matter too much. Now, a quick Google search revealed that the best thing I could do in this fight was probably Prey melee, because he's going to attack with a lot of melee. So as soon as I get into the fight, I turn on my Prayer, turn on my Rigor, turn on my Prayer melee, summon a Thrall, basically just start attacking him. Now, pretty much what I read was try to avoid getting hit by the lasers. They're the things that do the most damage. Run around the arena, just eat, out eat, brew, out eat, brew, out eat, brew. Attack those bee swarms. Once again, out eat, brew. Just keep eating, brewing, eating, brewing, eating, brewing, attacking the boss. Your T-bow is just going to absolutely melt him. I didn't really know how many of the mechanics in here worked. I just knew that don't stand wherever those lasers are going to fire, because that's the thing that's going to kill you, if anything. Once again, doesn't really matter if you're getting hit by any of the waves, you can out-eat everything. Once again here, just boom, out-eat, back up to 130 health. Back up to 130 health. I think I got a bit scared here, so just kind of ran around and, you know, brew, super restore, more Karambwans. Make sure I've got my food nice and easy to access for my 3-piece eat, the shark, the super restore, the brew. You know, here I started to just get a little bit more confident and sort of take a lot more damage because I knew that the boss was pretty much dead. And if I was going to die at this stage, I was going to proc last stand anyway, so, you know, I just kind of stood there. Took a lot of damage there. I sort of panicked, eat, started getting a bit nervous, but ultimately I didn't stand in the way of the laser beams. And then here I pretty much completed it and didn't even end up proccing last stand. So yeah, that's what I did. I hope you know, watching this video may have helped you finish.